The Tampa Bay Rays are currently battling with the Baltimore Orioles for first place in the AL East and the #1 overall seed in the American League as we head towards the 2023 MLB Playoffs. The Rays are known around the league as one of the most analytical teams, and they put that to good use. They're known to develop their prospects well, and if a player goes and lands in Tampa Bay either from the draft or the international free agency signing period, they automatically get a little boost in a lot of evaluators' heads simply because of their landing spot. The Rays are also savvy when it comes to trade because of that evaluation of player talent and ability to identify prospects that might not have everything unlocked yet. If you look at their current 40-man roster breakdown, they have over half of their 40-man acquired via trade, which is absolutely unheard of. The Rays epitomize the importance of going and scouting talent from other organizations, as when you make a trade, you want to make sure you're getting the prospects you think are going to best maximize the value of your team going forward and in the future. When people think about the Rays and their trade history, a lot of people go straight to the Chris Archer trade back about 5 years ago, where they shipped off the two-time All-Star to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Austin Meadows, Tyler Glasnow, and Shane Baz. Two players who were really good for the Rays, and Shane Baz, who is a very top-level prospect even now with a huge injury history, who just hasn't put it all together due to those injuries. That trade has been hashed out more than enough times, so this video won't focus on that, but rather some of the other trades the Rays have made that have really go ahead and put themselves in a position for success both now and in the future. I know this is repetitive in any video, but please go ahead and hit that baseball in the bottom right corner to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot, and you'll get more baseball content like this, and if you do end up changing your mind, it's simply just hitting the unsubscribe button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive a little bit into the history of the Rays trades and why they're so savvy at getting players at below market value. Although the Tampa Bay Rays did trade away a top 100 prospect in Kyle Manzardo at the 2023 trade deadline, you can check out that video up there in the card that just showed up in the top right of your screen. They still have a very stacked farm system, and a lot of that has to do with their ability to make savvy trades and find talent, especially at the Dominican Summer League or the DSL and the Arizona Complex League or the ACL. There's no better example of this than Junior Caminero, a top 10 prospect who just recently made his MLB debut just a couple days ago and has really skyrocketed up prospect rankings this season. The best way to look at how good he is to look at his batted ball data. He has more balls hit at 110 miles an hour or more than 8 MLB teams this season. Think about that. 8 MLB teams have not hit balls harder than one man in Junior Caminero. That is just unheard of. The Rays got a steal. They swiped him away from the Guardians in their Dominican Summer League team, and he joined their Florida State League, which is basically a counterpart to the Arizona Complex League, just for the East Coast teams, and he really started to take off from there. He started this season in High A, jumped up to Double A, and all of a sudden, now here he is playing in the major leagues, jumping straight from Double A to the major leagues to help a contending team win a championship. So who did the Rays give up in this trade? None other than Tobias Myers.
Who?
Now, I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Tobias Myers. He is a better baseball player than I ever will be. But that doesn't mean this trade hasn't been a massive failure for the Guardians, as he's not even on their team. He lasted 1 year in their minor league system before they decided to cut him loose. After only 8 months in the Guardians organization, they shipped him off to San Francisco, who only had him on the roster for about a month before they waived him and the White Sox claimed him, and before you knew it, he was a free agent. Currently, he's in the Brewers minor league system playing for the AAA affiliate, but he only got called up a couple days ago, so it's not looking like he's going to have a huge major league career if he ever debuts at all. He's had okay numbers this year, nothing to write home about, but he's been an okay pitcher. He has more strikeouts than innings pitched so far, and sometimes that's more than you can ask for. He's only 25, so it's not like this is the end of the road for him, but I don't expect him to be a contributor at the major league level, and again, if you look at Junior Caminero, I mean, just look at what he did to that baseball. It's kind of not fair. It's obvious the Guardians did not win that trade at all, but we're not even done talking about top 50 prospects the Rays got for basically nothing. Back in 2019, they swiped Australian Curtis Mead from the Phillies Florida Complex League affiliate, and now he's sitting at the top of their prospect rankings. Now, Curtis Mead has also made his major league debut this year, and granted, it's in a very crowded Rays infield, so it's not like he's had a ton of playing time, but he's made the most of it so far. Especially against left-handed pitchers, which the Rays have faced a ton of in the past about week. He's put on a decent showing and has even slid up to third in the Rays batting order a couple times, which is definitely impressive for a rookie going on a team that, again, is ready to compete for a World Series this year. Mead has been solid this year, boasting a 107 OPS plus and a slash line of 273, 351, 394, so it's not like he's been paltry at the plate yet, and as he grows and develops, there's just no doubt that he's going to be a better player. He's only 22 years old, and he's really performing really well for an Australian. There hasn't been a lot of Australian position players that have made the major leagues, but Mead's showing that it can be done, and he's leading a new wave of Australians who are trying to make an effort in Major League Baseball and make a huge impact. With Travis Bazzana, an Oregon State baseball player who's looking to be a first-round pick in the 2024 MLB draft, also being an Australian, I wouldn't be shocked to see a wave of future players coming from that country and making an impact, much as you see players from Japan, Korea, and other South Asian countries going and making a big impact today in the major leagues. The one downside to this trade is the Rays did give up Christopher Sanchez, who's currently pitching in the Phillies starting rotation. He's had a really good year so far, boasting a 3-5 record, but a 3.48 ERA and a WHIP below 1.06, which is definitely really impressive, especially for a starting pitcher. His strikeout numbers aren't super high, but he's put up a really good year so far. He's only 26, and I think he'll be a mainstay in the Phillies rotation for a couple years to come. The other big trade we should really talk about is the Willy trade, where they sent their shortstop to the Milwaukee Brewers for two pitchers who have had really good success in the Tampa Bay Rays organization so far. Adames was never a top prospect in the organization, but he was definitely highly touted and fairly high up on prospect ranks, just not at the top. He had a pretty solid beginning to his career, but things started to slip away, especially in 2021. Adames attributed a lot of his mistakes to the changing of the lights in Tropicana Field after the 2019 season, and once he got traded from Tampa Bay to Milwaukee, his numbers showed that maybe a change of scenery was a good thing for him. Adames really struggled to start the 2021 season in Tampa Bay with the batting average below the Mendoza line, but once he got traded to Milwaukee about a third of the way through the season, things really turned around. His batting average jumped by almost 90 points, and his OPS jumped by almost 250. He really turned things around in 2021 with the Milwaukee Brewers and became their shortstop of the future. It's obviously had a huge boost in numbers once he went from Tampa Bay to Milwaukee, but I can't really fault that on the Rays. If you want to call it on the Trop and say that's the Rays' fault, that's fine, but you can't really attribute anything to the Rays' development or front office or coaching staff as why Adames really didn't meet his potential in Tampa Bay. Although you never really know if it's someone's true opinion, Adames has continued to back the fact that the changing lighting at Tropicana Field is the reason why he struggled in Tampa Bay. Granted, his numbers have receded drastically since he had his breakout in 2021, but he still projects to be someone the Brewers can count on and has had a decent year if you don't go ahead and look at OPS Plus as your only metric of measuring things. I expect him to be a solid player going forward. He's going to break the 25 home run campaign this season again for the second straight year. I think he'll be a good player and someone the Brewers will be able to count on in the future. But this video isn't about the Milwaukee Brewers, it's about the Tampa Bay Rays. And although the WAR totals don't match up, I think this trade is an absolute win for Tampa Bay. Drew Rasmussen was someone I was really excited about coming out of the 2017 MLB draft class, and the Rays actually took him in the first round, picked 31 overall, and tried to sign him, but after a physical revealed that he needed Tommy John surgery, he opted to go back to Oregon State and test his waters again, and it didn't end up paying off as he fell to the 6th round, but he did end up getting a College World Series ring out of it, so I guess you win some, you lose some. The Brewers were really happy with what they got in the 6th round, and it paid off. He shot up their prospect ranks and ended up making the major leagues after just a couple years in the minors. Milwaukee originally used him as a spot starter, long reliever, but once he got traded to Tampa Bay, that all changed and he became a full-time starter, and it's really paid off for the Rays. Right now, he's hurt again, so he can't really contribute to the playoff rush, but he did contribute a lot of quality innings so far for Tampa Bay this year, and although he most likely won't be coming back, he definitely put them in a position to go ahead and win the AL East if they can make it in these last couple days, and go far in the playoffs should they make it out of the wildcard round. His 2023 stats before injury are really impressive. A 4.12 record, 2.62 ERA, and a WHIP of 1.052. Really good for a starting pitcher, and he's striking out more people than he has innings pitched, which is definitely an accomplishment that any pitcher would want to have. His strikeout to walk ratio is also really high at 4.27, so he has a lot of control with that pitch, and that's something that you don't often see with starting pitchers. Although he's no longer with the organization, he's in the Dodgers minor leagues, JP Feyereisen had a dominant 2022 campaign out of the bullpen. He pitched 24.1 innings and didn't allow a single run, and he had a WHIP under 0.5, which is absolutely unheard of. He was dominant, and although he's not with the Rays anymore, as I already mentioned, he was a big part of their success in 2022 and 2021, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him back up with the Dodgers at some point, which is his current minor league affiliate. We can also look back at the Chris Archer trade to see how the Rays further maximize value. Austin Meadows was a big piece of what they acquired, the only position player, and had a lot of really good years, including an all-star appearance in Tampa Bay. However, they were ready to go and have him get a change of scenery and traded him to the Detroit Tigers at the end of the 2021 season. Austin Meadows really struggled in 2022 with Detroit, slashing .250, .347, .328, and just really didn't look like he was putting everything together like he was in Tampa Bay. Meadows had a really rough start to 2023 before deciding to step away from the game due to mental health reasons at the beginning of April. Although there is obviously the chance he comes back, we wish Meadows the best of luck as he battles his mental health issues and hope that he can return back to form, both mentally and in the game of baseball. The Rays traded Meadows at the right time, and in exchange, they got Paredes, a third baseman who's really come on strong for them this year. He has a .251 batting average with 30 home runs already and has almost eclipsed the 100 RBI mark on the year. Paredes offers incredible defensive versatility, playing every position so far except for shortstop on the infield, and he's even DH'd a little bit as well to accommodate the glutton of infield talent that the Rays currently have. He's been a very valuable piece for this team, batting in the middle of the order almost every time he's in the lineup, being an everyday stalwart, and he's going to be the center of Rays teams for years to come. So if you're a Rays fan or someone who watches the game, you should definitely expect to see Paredes in an all-star game next year or the year after, or sometime soon. He's a dynamic player, and he's going to be a stalwart at the major league level for years to come. Now that we've talked about a lot of these big pieces and future stars that the Rays have acquired for basically nothing, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about how the Rays have maximized their value in smaller wins. I think the easiest way to look at this is Randy Arozarena. After winning Rookie of the Year in 2021, Arozarena has really put it all together and has become one of the faces of Major League Baseball. After a stellar performance in the World Baseball Classic where he helped lead Mexico to the semifinal rounds, Arozarena has put it all together in 2023 and has become an all-star for the first time in his career. The ALCS MVP in 2020 is currently slashing .255, .363, .427, and has a 3.5 baseball reference win above replacement so far just this year alone. He's a phenomenal player, and the Rays really got a steal in getting him from the St. Louis Cardinals. People were questioning this acquisition at the time because the Rays traded away their top prospect and someone that a lot of talent evaluators loved in Matthew Liberatore, who the Cardinals really coveted as their starting pitcher of the future, as an aging Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright, who somehow is still pitching today, was going to be the next face of the St. Louis Cardinals' stellar rotation. Unfortunately, that really hasn't panned out. Unfortunately, Liberatore is someone I really missed on because I was really high on him coming out of the minor leagues and as a prospect. He's currently pitching to a 3-6 record, a 5.52 ERA in 2021, 44 strikeouts in 58 and 2/3 innings pitched. He just hasn't looked great in a Cardinals uniform or in the major leagues in general. His numbers are a little bit better than they were last year, but it's not something to be super excited about. His prospect status has really fallen off, and unfortunately, although he's only 24 years old to start 2024, I just don't think he's going to put it all together. I would love for him to do so. I think he has the potential to be an ace. I don't think he'll meet that potential, but the lefty definitely has a lot of talent in him, and hopefully things turn around. But right now, this is definitely looking like a huge win for the Rays when at the beginning of this trade, a lot of people thought the Rays got fleeced. How could I do this video without talking about one of the most fun stories in all of baseball of Brett Phillips, the guy who loves the game and makes it fun. His 2020 World Series clutch walk-off will live in forever in Rays infamy, and although he hasn't panned out to be an above-average major leaguer, the Rays got him for virtually nothing. Although Phillips' offensive numbers weren't great, his defensive metrics were phenomenal, and that's what helped lead him to a 2.9 WAR in his roughly 2.5 years in Tampa Bay. It's really impressive that he's able to do that without a lot of offensive production, and that's part of the reason why he's currently playing for the Angels. Granted, he's been kind of cold recently and spent a lot of his time in AAA this year, but he's a fun guy to watch and someone who's good for the game of baseball, which is anything that I can ask for. We need people who love the game, and Brett Phillips embodies that. To get Phillips, the Rays traded away Lucius Fox, a shortstop out of the Bahamas who was a really highly touted prospect, but again, not top level, but someone that a lot of prospect evaluators really, really liked. He really didn't put a lot of things together, ended up going to the Washington Nationals at the start of 2022, and really struggled, and actually his numbers are kind of abysmal. He only logged 28 plate appearances, and if you look at his offensive metrics, it's kind of easy to understand why. His batting average was below 100, and his OPS plus was -42. Yes, that's right. That's not a typo on your screen. -42. He was abysmal in his cup of coffee, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to have another shot at getting the major leagues, and that's just how things go. He's been released by the Washington Nationals a couple weeks ago, and he's probably not going to get another shot. It's unfortunate because he was a highly touted prospect, but sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. I could list a million other trades that the Rays have made that will go ahead and showcase just how good they've been, but for the sake of brevity and to not make this video 30 hours long, I'm just going to name some highlights of some of the players that they've got, and you can determine just how good a lot of these players might end up being. Santiago Suarez is only 18 years old and is someone who could very easily rise up prospect rankings, as he's only 15th on the Rays top 30 according to MLB Pipeline right now, with a plus fastball, plus curveball, and plus control. It's really interesting, especially because they traded for him just out of the complex league like Curtis Mead and Junior Caminero. He's someone who's really going to rise up prospect ranks. He's had a stellar 2023 since being traded from Miami to Tampa Bay with a 5-2 record, 1.52 ERA, and a whip hovering around 1. Super impressive, especially because he's only 18, pitching against guys who are older, more mature, straight out of college. So he's someone I definitely think if you're in a fantasy league and need a pitcher long term, he's a guy I would definitely target as someone who could be a front-of-the-line starter. Although his K numbers aren't super great, meaning he's probably going to be limited to a starting role, he's someone I would definitely be excited about if I was a Rays fan or potentially looking for a league winner in Dynasty Baseball. Marcus Johnston was the other pitcher they got in that deal. He's currently ranked 17th on MLB Pipeline's list of their top 30 prospects, and he's done a solid job this year at Civale, a 5-6 record, 3.74 ERA, and a 1.16 whip. He's putting the pieces together. He is a little older at 22, straight out of Duke University in the 2022 MLB draft, but I think he has the potential to be a solid starter, and if he doesn't, he definitely has the potential to be a good reliever. He has a very good slider and elite control, and that could help him end up in the back end of the bullpen. Harold Ramirez has been another star that they've swiped away from the Chicago Cubs. He's really been an everyday corner outfielder for them, and he's done a good job of giving people rest days like Josh Lowe if there's a left-handed pitcher in the lineup, or in case of injury. And although he has taken a little bit of a backseat due to Junior Caminero's call-up and his just need to play DH, he's still been playing every day in left field and is someone I would definitely be excited about, especially as people like Jonathan Aranda likely end up getting less playing time simply due to the fact that there's just a glutton of people in the major league level for the Tampa Bay Rays to play. Ramirez is your classic hit for average guy. He has a 3.08 batting average this year, and although he doesn't walk much, his OBP is just 3.49 this season. It's definitely serviceable for a guy who does get a lot of hits, so it's not like it's the end of the world, and he's been a very good player for Tampa Bay. They've taken away, and he played for Miami, and then Cleveland, and then ended up in Tampa Bay after getting traded from the Cubs. So they really reformed this guy into someone who was going to be a journeyman to be an everyday player, and it's really come and paid dividends for the Tampa Bay Rays. Jeffrey Springs was a steal they got from their division rival, the Boston Red Sox, pitching so far in 3 seasons in Tampa Bay to a 2.53 ERA, an ERA plus of 1.52, and a 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is very good for a reliever. Although he isn't a high leverage guy, he's definitely a medium leverage guy that the Rays lean on, and he has Tommy John surgery at the beginning of the year in 2023, so he hasn't been able to contribute to their playoff run, but he had a very good start to the season, the 2-0 record, a 0.56 ERA, a 0.5 whip, and 24 strikeouts in just 16 innings pitched. So he was a really good starter for them coming into the year, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him as a stalwart of the 2024 rotation midseason when he should return from Tommy John. It's obvious the Tampa Bay Rays are a dominant force in the trade market and prospect evaluation spectrum. That's not to say they haven't gotten everything right. There's not a single player from the Blake Snell deal a couple years ago who's still currently contributing to the Rays playoff push this year, and Blake Snell looks like he might win a Cy Young this year potentially. It's a very hot debate of who's going to win the NL Cy Young. There's a lot of people who think a lot of different ways, but you can't deny that Blake Snell is going to be one of the front runners for that award come October. Another big blunder was when they added Jake Cronenworth to the Tommy Pham deal when they acquired Hunter Renfroe and Xavier Edwards from the Padres, so maybe the Rays should just take a note out of their book and say never trade with San Diego, because that seems to be their kryptonite. AJ Preller has a lot of heat on him right now, but at least he knows how to deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, which is definitely a skill that any team would want to have. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot. Again, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you are interested in more content like this. And if you do want to watch another video, there's going to be a couple more that pop up onto the screen. Really appreciate it if you go ahead and watch one of those as well. I hope to see you next time for more baseball content. And if you have any suggestions or future advice, go ahead and leave that in the comments below.